Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Single best idea. And the single best idea is I feel like we're deep into 2025. I believe the calendar says January 10th of 2025. And I can just tell you that actually before the new year, it has just been 24/7 for our team. And they really outdid themselves today. Just very fluid flexibility. Thank you, June Grasso of Bloomberg Law, for stepping in with perspective on this sentencing of the president-elect that we saw in New York City. But much, much more than that. Just an extraordinary news flow. A major weekend shout out to Rob Carolyn. I kid, I say he's surveillance meteorologist, but Rob Carolyn is definitive across all of Bloomberg weather, providing level-headed analysis of whatever the storm is, the crisis, or that. I should say he said that the winds in the east are highly unusual that we're seeing right now. And of course, we did focus on the horrific fire in Los Angeles. I'm sure Mr. Carolyn will be with us next week. Some real worry out there of increased winds next week. What a stellar lineup today. On very short notice, Rebecca Patterson joined us. Definitive at J.P. Morgan and then at Bessemer Trust, and of course her tenure at Bridgewater as well. We talked about this, that, and the other of economics, finance, investment in international relations, but we ended on a new strong dollar after the jobs report, an ever stronger dollar. Rebecca Patterson on the Chinese renminbi.
In 2018, the renminbi fell 10% against the dollar during the trade war. Most economists and strategists I'm talking to think that is very likely to happen again. So here's your headline. The Chinese renminbi, if the PBOC, if the central bank lets it, is going to fall 10% or more this year. Oh. The question is, will they allow it? Are they going to avoid capital flight worries and prevent it? Or are they going to do it because they need it for exports, they need it for manufacturing?
Rebecca Patterson there on currency, and she did look to a resilient dollar. That was before the jobs report. I'm sure if we interviewed her now, she would really underscore that. That red sticky that came out, the red headline across the Bloomberg service of the people in the parlor game gaming out no rate decrease by the Fed until October. That was extraordinary. Ellen Zentner was with us, and we got a wow off that. Joining us as well, an extended conversation with the Nobel laureate Paul Krugman. Thank you for the huge comments that we saw out on YouTube on that. A lightning rod of politics and liberal and conservative and all that. I really wanted to stick with him about international economics. That's how he won the Nobel Prize. His textbooks with Maurice Obstfeld of Berkeley are definitive. Paul Krugman, of course, and the theme of the moment, tariffs.
The magnitude, one of the things that you learn from studying the economics of tariffs is that tariffs at low rates do very, very little harm. We had an average tariff of something like 2 to 3%. We do at the moment coming into this.
Right.
That, if you ask, how much difference would it make if we got that down to zero? The answer is basically invisible. But if you go from 5% to 25%, which is what Trump's talking about for everybody, and 60% for China, then it's, roughly speaking, we think that the losses go up roughly as the square of the tariff rate. So with Trump talking not about a modest increase in tariffs, not about tariffs on a few products, but across the board trade war, Smoot-Hawley tariff levels, that starts to become a really, really big deal.
Paul Krugman there of Keene, and of course always of Princeton there on his international economics on tariffs. I want to identify a single sentence there, which is not a small matter. And this is the wonkish Paul Krugman. He said the loss is roughly the square. What does he mean about that? That's an exponent. And you can go back to Physics 101 with just to pick on one theme, the wizardry of Isaac Newton and figuring out gravitational constants between the moon and the earth. And always in there's a squared function. And of course, the squared function is not a linear function, 1, 2, 3, 4. A squared function is a power of 2, 4, 8, 16, 32. There's a power to that and an effect that is a glide path that is much greater than some of the linear emotions that we have within economy. Hope that helps a little bit. Did people drive off the road on that, Eric? I think so. Yeah, we try. We're going to try next week as well. We launch into the earnings next week, and of course, we'll have all the services of Bloomberg Intelligence and our wonderful guests from across Wall Street as well. We're out on YouTube podcasts. This is Single Best Idea.